Okay, guys, EQ Magnum 318B, first cut. Charlie, how can you get so much done? Every day you have something new. This is yesterday's schedule. Called in at 3:30 a.m. Rolled right into an 8-hour workday. Come home and do 5 hours of work on these. Figure out how many hour workday that is. Get off your ass and do something. Damn young guys. Sorry, that's funny. All right, how'd we do? Well, I wanted to do the first cut like pretty much anyone who had a die grinder could emulate. Just did a little cleanup by the seats. You can see the not touched ones. We have a nice mountain range around the seats, so you mow that down a little bit. You can still see I got some here. Remember, I don't have any filler valves for this, so it makes it very difficult. Now these are going to get cut for a bigger valve, but I may wait until the bigger valves show up before I do that. I did a small plateau like DV does for the exhaust. I took some of the lumps and bumps off the chamber. Did not change the shape of the chamber. I will have to discuss with the owner whether he wants me to do the fuelie cut. He may not. That's fine. He gave me the specs to the engine. And of course I did the same thing again. I picked up the phone that's got the email on it. 387 cubes. I can't remember anything else. But it's going to be a hot street setup, so I have to get some air through these. May not be the easiest thing to see. Let's see if I can change the light a little bit on this. Okay, we got some speckles on that corner. We got speckles around the chamber. Before I forget, let me show you the bore. Okay. Not great, but not bad. Really speckled all the way around. Interesting, right? Okay, going to be tough for me to show you, but I did take some out of the pinch. Not a huge amount. This wall is still relatively thin, so you got to be careful. But we took some area out of the whole thing. Let's see what it looks like at the floor. All right, I can see a mistake because this is all machined, and then at the very top here, it's stock size. I missed the spot, which is fine. You can see down its throat, I took a little bit off of that divided wall, straighten it up a little bit. We got a nice splash on the back of the chamber. We got a little bit on the roof. We don't have much on the guide. Now, the short side radius was barely touched at all on these because as an amateur trying to do that short side radius with the fin, going to be tough to do. Real tough. It's hard for me to do. And I'm just a little better than an amateur, I think, at this point, after 40 years. Okay, you can see the roof got a little work. The center of the cylinder wall got some work, but it's sketchy. And right above the short side radius, basically wasn't even touched. Okay, I'm going to move my light around so you guys can see. Okay. The short side radius was touched. Did not take the apex down. I want the apex tall. It was laid back a teeny bit just to blend all those angles together. Notice nothing smooth, it's all burred. I'm not sure if the pause button got me, so we're going to take a quick look at this again. Okay. Notice I just hit the bottom of that last cut on the insert. Shrink that last cut up a little bit. Okay. The bottom corner of that short side radius got a little extra area. You can see the wall got a light going over. You can still see paste ooze lines. You can still see lots of slag in the port. Okay, the fin has not been touched whatsoever. And the short side on the cylinder wall, center of the cylinder wall has not been touched. Notice I completely forgot about the floor. Oops. Oh well. Okay, the exhaust picked up nicely. Now the exhaust, they curve this floor, right? Floor, it's the roof. They curve it, so it's tight here by the guide, and then it gets bigger. Well, I don't think it should be like that. I think it should be straighter. So they gave us tons of metal there. I took quite a bit of metal off of that. It's still super thick. I can go a lot bigger on this exhaust port. Notice the outside edge is the same as it's always been. Made it a touch wider. Took the lumps and bumps and casting marks out. That's it. Super easy on the exhaust. Anyone can do it. Okay, what I did with the short side is I did a really fast burr radius coming near the seat, not on the seat though, and then blended all the cut marks in and sent it. Doesn't get easier than that, guys. Does not get easier. Okay, overall, very good exhaust port shape. Okay, the exhaust port is still a little lumpy and bumpy. You can see I got to get in there with a tiny burr and take the little bits of black out. But like I said, I wanted to do whatever anybody else could do. The bowl got a little bit wider on both sides. Plenty of metal on both sides. We can make it quite a bit bigger. Do we need to, or are we better off keeping it tight? It will be a street engine. It'll be a street engine with some cubes. And it is going to RPM. We need to think about that. Okay? But as of right this minute, you can see I did hit the chamber. Took a lot of them bumps and lumps and mountain ridges out. The exhaust picked up nicely. Okay, before I forget, now remember, I'm not a Mopar guy. Let's see if we can get this popped in place. I would think this gasket should fit because these are drilled for the LA style intake manifold. Okay? First of all, they don't fit in the holes, which is really annoying, right? So those holes will have to be modified. But take a look. This is a 318 gasket. It will not even cover the ports. So obviously these are designed for 360 gaskets. Well, that's fine. Let's see if we have... I have the gaskets for the other set of Magnums that I did, the New Zealand Magnums. Let's grab them. Now, obviously these are drilled for the Magnum holes, but they're a lot closer to what they should be, okay? You guys can straighten me out in the comments what gaskets these need. If they're goofed from the factory, they're both the same. I mean, I would think this gasket with those punched out sections, which I really like, by the way, right? You just pop them right into the head and it holds it in place. It's a great design. Love it. Chevy did that. See what's up with this, because I wanted to give that head a quick flow with the other intake I have, but that's a Magnum intake. It won't bolt up anyway. But I didn't realize that until I went to set the gasket, and the gasket didn't fit. All right, guys, let's see how we did as far as first cut. Now, as usual, when I start porting, I always lose the lower end. No difference here, right? Minus, minus, minus. 0.25, we start going up, and it's only a little bit. 300, we go from 278.8 to 286.5. Decent, but nowhere near where it's got to be. Okay? Start going up by 0.35. We've already beat the stocker at any lift. Okay? Very important point, guys. And we go up at around 480. It hit 236. It maxed out, and then she started losing it across the short side. Right? You can see our airspeeds go. Our swirl goes nuts when it goes off, and then she saturated and she's done. But still, if you're going to do a smaller street cam, just a little tune-up on these goes a long way. Take a look at our swirl. We got up, 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 then down, down, down. Overall, I like this swirl curve better than this swirl curve, because at 600, they're pretty close. This is just a touch lower. I like this one better. All right, better progression up. Take a look at our speeds. This is what we had on the pinch. This is a bigger pinch. We still got more air on the bottom that I forgot to touch, and the center. We lost a little bit on the roof. As far as roof speeds, that's what we had. Didn't really change much. A little bit of a minus on both. Short side radius. I expected them to change quite a bit, and they did. They all got steeper because the short side got way more efficient. Okay, let's take a look at our exhaust. Let's move the page. Okay, the exhaust is quite interesting. Okay, this was our stocker exhaust. This is our first cut. Plus, 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 minus, 3 spots, and then it takes off like a rocket ship. Okay, so at 0.35, we beat the stocker, just like the intake. Interesting, right? Yeah, think about it. I didn't do any of my textures or anything on it. I just took a lot of the lumps and bumps off of it. A little bit of chamber work. Still has this super wide 75 thousandths 45 on it. Doesn't even have a top cut. Okay, over here I put a pipe on it at 0.600. I got 176. Over here at the same lift, 220. Calculate that up for me, guys. 176, 220. Is that a big enough boost? I don't know. I should think about that. Tiny exhaust port that moves a ton of air. I like the comment that said, Darren Morgan says, test the exhaust by pressurizing the exhaust with 1,000 psi and then whacking the valve open and see how fast the pressure drops. Think about that. Darren's right. Darren's excellent. I really like what he teaches. But it's interesting the way to think about it, right? That's why area is so important with an exhaust. But I think a lot of guys go overboard with the area and put too big an exhaust port in. You got to remember, most of my stuff is street stuff. I'd rather have a little bit smaller exhaust. Straight drag racing, yeah, put a bigger port in, no doubt. No doubt. Okay? Something you need street torque, better off keeping it a little bit smaller port with higher velocities. That way it evacuates the chamber at a wider RPM range, right? Okay, let's see how we did on our air speeds. Really wasn't bad for a stock port. Way better. Way better. Okay, look at all the 300s in that. Even the dead port in the middle, it's still dead. I could work on that, but it's not the end of the world. Not when you're flowing almost 190 and I didn't do a valve job on it yet. Okay. All right. Oh, there's a note there. At 500, it's flowing 189.9. That port was totally silent. What is that telling you guys? That's really important. The quieter the port is, tells you something about the flow going through it, right? Discuss that on the comments. All right, guys. So I'm going to do a rough out on all of them. I still got to go through and check the other head. I haven't gone through the other head yet. But I want to get some, I want to start making some chips today. Getting at least these roughed out. And then I'll figure out a second cut design. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good night.